what we see in the beginning is an interview from 2015 with Hello Canada.
That was crazy.
This was so important because in that interview,
you really get to know her. That is who she is.
Yeah.
She is an incredibly high-achieving, well-educated, young activist.
Welcome to Comeback with Erica Cobb. All right, Comeback community, things are going to be a little different for the next 6 episodes because there's this little documentary called Harry and Meghan on Netflix. And you know what I like to say, if you can see a comeback, you can be a comeback. So I have enlisted a little help from my friend, my co-host on Daily Blast Live, Tory Shulman.
What? I'm very honored to be here. Thank you very much.
I am so excited to have you because obviously we both have been following this Harry and Meghan saga since the beginning. You actually went to the royal wedding.
I sure did.
Yes. Tory Shulman, this is true tea, in 2016 or 2017? Or was it 2018?
No, it was 2018.
Okay, I'm like...
Something around there.
Yes, Tory got on a flight with the DBL crew to attend the royal wedding when Harry and Meghan got married.
It was amazing.
Yeah, it was true tea. Tell us about your experience a little bit.
All right. Well, to be fair, we did go to Windsor right before, and we interviewed a lot of people there. And then we would also go to, you can make fun of me if you want, some pubs, because I wanted the every Londoner's take on Meghan. And I also fancied a pint.
Yeah.
So I went to a lot of pubs, and the one thing that kept coming up over and over again is, what are you most amazed by or worried about? And it wasn't that she was American, and it wasn't that she was divorced, and it wasn't that she was black, but the Brits had a problem with her being an actress. And I thought that, I had not thought that to them, that was sort of low class, but that was the only thing I saw that was really particular. Other than that, many people were very excited to see her modernize the monarchy.
Yeah, well, we all know now that was an epic fail.
Yeah, huge.
The next 6 episodes are going to be all about Harry and Meghan. We're going to break down each episode week by week, or actually I'm going to be dropping multiple episodes, so make sure you come back. But we're going to start with episode 1. And this isn't really a recap. It's kind of like a commentary on what we saw. First, I just want to acknowledge that Netflix did, in fact, reach out to the royal family for comment, although the royal family has said that they didn't. I do believe that they're pretending like they didn't know because they wanted this to come across as an ambush.
Oh, 1,000%. They, in no way, shape, or form, illegally, anyway, would you not have asked for a comment from the monarchy at all. I assume they declined to comment, but acting like they're shocked is part of the plan.
So, yeah, I think one thing that Harry said, and we can kind of start here, is that it's his duty to uncover bribery and exploitation in the media. So when people are talking about this is because of Meghan, I feel like this might have been Harry's calling that he's answering. How do you feel about that?
I also felt in some ways he drove the documentary. I also I liked Meghan's commentary, and I thought, but I learned more about Harry, really, than I expected. And I thought he really opened up, especially the video diaries. But yeah, Harry is the rebel, and I never got it from his own voice. So hearing it from him was fascinating.
Yeah, I just found myself continuing to say, I love them. I smiled for most of that episode because you can see body language you can't fake. You know, when someone is truly in love and, they're really bonded in that way, it shows in everything that they do, their expressions, the way that they play off one another. That is very organic. And I can understand why some people don't believe it, because if you've never had that, and this is not me being shady, you don't understand it.
Exactly.
But when you've had it, you see it every single time it's in front of you.
Yeah, you see, I call it like the heart bubbles that come out. You can't really fake that. Now, a lot of people told me from some of the previews, they felt she was somewhat performative. Like, she always talks so beautifully and always sits up so high, but you really get to know her. That is who she is.
Yeah.
She is an incredibly high-achieving, well-educated, young activist from Northwestern in a double major. She's a nerd. She's a nerd, and I'm a nerd, and that's how she speaks. And it is not a put on, and it's not a front. That's Meghan, and you see it from like 7 years old on those home recordings.
Yeah.
Which I hope people watch that to see that she's not putting on a front.
Well, and also another thing she didn't put on a front about, because there definitely was, in the British media, went out of their way to paint her in a certain way, but also to imply that she lured Harry.
Yes.
And what we see...
Kiss of the Spider Woman.
Crazy. I mean, what we see in the beginning is an interview from 2015 with Hello Canada.
That was crazy.
This was so important because in that interview, this is a year before Meghan ever met Harry. They asked her, because it was Canada, and Canada's a part of the Commonwealth.
Sure. Like a pop culture kind of thing.
Right. Harry or William.
Yeah.
And
This was
Meghan
fascinating.
could not have looked more disinterested.
She could
was
not
like,
care.
What? What? I don't know. I guess Harry, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, it was such a throwaway. And I thought that was incredible because the word in the British media was basically that she, like, basically manipulated her way into his life. And she's like, no. In fact, we find out very much the opposite.
Yeah, what's so interesting, you just brought that up, is the context that gave from Liz Garbus, who, by the way, is my favorite documentarian. She look up everything she's done. She directs this Harry and Meghan documentary. She knew that adding that tight clip in the beginning immediately dissolves the idea of, and may I say this with all love, the person who actually maybe lured more, I've heard, was Kate Middleton. She grew up knowing she wanted to marry a royal. She went to the right school. She learned how to... If you want to talk about luring, this woman didn't even know Harry or William the year before. It was a great clip, great context. I agree.
You know, Harry had some major shade, and it wasn't even intentional shade. It was just like, you know, when shade really hurts is when it's rooted in so much truth.
God.
And
it's the worst shade ever.
It really is. At one point, Harry talked about the family, the firm.
The firm, that's what they call it.
Particularly the men in the family look for partners who fit into the firm, not necessarily someone who they're destined to be with. And he talked about how he basically operates from the heart, much like his mother. And he says, I am my mother's son.
I wrote that down.
And I was like, dang.
I don't think he even spoke about his dad more than a second. He spoke a lot about Diana. And way more than I expected. I completely agree with you. And what's interesting to me about that is he said at one point, she fits the role because she had already been on red carpets. She had already been in charities. She had already been working as an activist. So in fact, when you say we want someone to fit the role, there was no one better to me than Meghan Markle, because she had already, I saw her feel comfortable meeting and doing that. So I thought, wow, he really felt like he had found not only his heart, but it would work. It would work, the role. It would work.
You're listening to Come Back with Erica Cobb. We are breaking down part one of the Harry and Meghan Netflix documentary with my girl, Tory Shulman. Okay, so let's talk about who actually lured, if we're going to use that word.
Sure, we will.
Because we find out
Yes.
that Harry saw Meghan on a mutual friend's Instagram.
I was like, whoa.
How shocked were you about that?
Dude, he's scrolling and finds her, and they show the picture that he was like taken in by, and I think, what a regular thing to have happened.
Yeah.
Like, he slid into DMs.
Yes.
I was like, right on Harry. By the way, she calls him H.
Yeah.
I want to address that, and he calls her M sometimes. It felt a little bit like it was a 007 situation. You know what I mean? He was like, M-H. But I think that it helps take away all of the baggage.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. But you're absolutely right. Sliding into her DMs.
I loved that.
And I loved us seeing their texts. What a lovely thing to actually say, hey, can we get a drink at, plus 6 or whatever?
Yeah. I really appreciated that piece because I thought it really normalized the situation. Everyone can understand how that is to like be interested in someone on social media and reaching out in that way. There was no like, royal matchmaker.
Which I sort of thought there'd be like, ding dong, the new one next. You know?
No, nothing like that. And then, I think everyone put, obviously, Harry on a pedestal because you put the firm and royal family on a pedestal. But to a single woman who had just recently been divorced, and I can speak to that.
Say, you can speak to that.
Yeah, because when I got divorced, I was not looking for a relationship. I don't care if Obama had a twin.
Don't go there. Don't go there.
Who was equally
Sacrilegious.
as successful. I still would not have been interested
Your body
at
wasn't
that
there.
point. I wasn't.
Yeah.
So when she said she was just trying to do a single girl summer.
I loved that.
Yes, she was. I mean, Meghan was very successful. You know, she had her own home. She had a career. She had the ability to do these amazing things. And she just wanted to enjoy her life and recenter her life. And I completely understand that. So the idea that Harry was interested and then she had this connection with him, I 1,000,000% believe that it had nothing to do with his status. In fact, his status as a prince was probably more of a deterrent.
I say a turnoff in some ways. I
Yes.
think so too. Now, I have to say, what she said too was, so I scrolled through his Instagram.
Yeah.
Again, super relatable. And what she saw versus what she expected, which was, I would think, all this royal crap. And she saw pictures of him in Botswana and pictures
Yeah.
of the elephants and the photography. And that's all stuff, environmental things. And I think that changed her mind, that he might not be the royal pompous ass.
Yeah.
That I think she was actually turned off by it.
Yeah.
Instead of the other way that the British media, I think, again, the luring of the femme fatale, none of that was there. She
Yeah.
was almost like kind of not into it because of that.
Right, because to be honest, that doesn't mean anything to a lot of us Americans.
Right.
Like, that's not, I mean, a lot of people, if you said Harry or Brad Pitt, most people are going to go with Brad Pitt. I don't know
that
why
man
I
is
chose
beautiful.
Brad Pitt.
That man is a beautiful nose. I
you
love
know,
that man.
yeah, I mean, seriously, we would if you had like a Harry or a, Trevor Noah,
Right.
most of us are going to choose Trevor Noah.
Daily Show.
Y'all know I love me some Trevor Noah.
A lot, Erica.
Yeah, I can't stop talking about him.
No.
But you mentioned Botswana, and Botswana is so important to Harry. It was where he found solace and in a sense of family after his mother died, when no one in the firm was offering him that, and the press was hunting him. So for him to invite Meghan so early on when they started dating to Botswana was huge.
Huge. Now, they had known each other or met twice. Twice they had met, okay? And he says, hey, come spend 5 days with me in a tent in Botswana. And again, if you go back, he spent time in Botswana after, as you said, his mom died. And the Buddha, who I study, says when you're in pain, do 3 things: sweep, sweep, sweep. Just get into a meditative mode. And you saw him just working in Botswana month after month after year, and he created the second family. And so I said, oh, wow, he's going to invite her over. And I expected like a royal tent, but no, they were in like a tent.
Yeah.
And they spent those 5 days. And the one thing I kept getting, Erica, which I think you always tell me about relationship, is they kept saying is, when I'm with him and I'm with her, I feel calmer. I didn't expect the relaxation that came from them. I expected sparks and all this, but the love for him to take it down a notch was actually such a turn on that I was like, oh, I totally get why these two instantly, magnetically were paired.
Yeah.
I thought that was lovely.
They're so, especially when you're in a relationship, and I can, I'll go back and forth on this, but like my husband, I was divorced and I've since remarried, and my husband, Anthony, was really like the golden boy, like he had, he was successful, and, he's a good family person, and he's an overall great human being.
He's the best. Everyone likes him better than everyone else. Like, I'm sorry. Anthony's the best.
Everybody loves my husband. I was considered like not the practical choice, not by anyone in our families, but that was kind of like the word on the street.
Wow. So it's like Prince Harry and Meghan.
I understand this dynamic because people expected him to be with more of like a Pearls girl.
I totally get it. A country clubby.
Yeah.
Yeah. Little waspy. I don't mean that in any bad way, but we all know that type. Wow.
Yeah. And so I can appreciate this dynamic because there were so many things of me being divorced and, I had all of this stuff going on, and I was a media, it didn't necessarily make sense to everyone else. But the issue is when people make up their minds about someone else, that's why it's never a great idea to get into the middle of someone's relationship, even if they're a complete ass or, whatever's happening, you're seeing things from the outside, because whatever bond there is between those two people cannot be broken. And Harry let us into basically a glimpse of why he's so comfortable with her.
Yeah, that's a great word too. Comfortable.
Yeah, that she reminds him of his mother.
Mom. Yeah.
And
I
he's
know.
searching for that.
Yeah.
And he has that in someone who is really nothing from the outside,
On paper.
like his mother.
Totally.
But she embodies the spirit of his mother.
And when you say that, it's important to hear two things. One, it's not only the empathy and compassion he said that Diana shares, but he also mentioned the confidence that Diana had. And there's a difference between just being the people's princess and like the sweetness.
Yeah.
There was some balls on that
Yes.
woman. And I mean, really, balls are not great. You want more ovaries, but like strong strength to be that woman. And I think he couldn't have taken the sort of the flowery, you need the fire under the confidence.
Yeah.
So I thought that was fascinating that he paired those both. But yeah, he feels like when people take a glass of wine after, a hard day, that's his Meghan.
Yeah.
She calms him down. She downshifts him.
I love, I just
that. I
kept
didn't know
saying,
that.
like, I love this for them. Like, I love their love. There was something that he talked about. I wanted to actually say the actual clip. Shoot. Okay, I just messed that up.
Do you want me to talk in a British accent? Will that help?
He talked about how so many people, he said, how can I find someone who is willing and capable of withstanding the baggage that comes with me?
And I don't think you have heavier baggage just in the entire world. And what's so weird is, again, on paper, she knew how to fit into so many parts of his role. The red carpet part, the charity part, the act, they were destined to meet. Like they were on the same path, on the same, and had race, in my mind, we'll get there, not been a part of it. Had she been white, country club, waspy, again, no offense, she couldn't be a better fit.
Right. Right.
And that's what I also thought was interesting. He said is when he was complaining about the way she's being treated, he said all the other women said, well, it's a rite of passage. They had to get through. And he said, you're not understanding. The one thing that's different about her is her race.
Right.
You're missing an enormous component. And I thought, damn, they were.
Well, we talked about earlier the idea that they had the people of the UK, the media, had a tremendous gift in a way to be able to utilize this union to modernize the monarchy.
They were so excited.
And they met it with resistance at every turn. And what it really did was broke open that polite, stiff upper lip seal of how much racism is embedded in the UK, in the British media, and also the Commonwealth. Like no one's having this conversation without there being a racist undertone underneath it. Because the truth is, when we talk about colonization, that word is very important because you have stolen land and resources from countries that could be independent and have their own land and resources in order to make the firm wealthy and powerful.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about right now. We're not talking about a cute royal wedding.
Right.
We're talking about the foundation of racism of the Commonwealth.
I mean, I have to even go further. That you said it so well. The colonialism that you deal with, the royalism of this, you can't separate the two.
Right.
So when you look at famous paintings and you're walking through them, you're going to see anybody of color is going to be a subservient picture every single time. You can't separate one or the other. So the idea that the actual microcosm of a black woman coming in during an immigration crisis in Britain, right, where there was strong takes on each one, represented the issue in like living color.
Yeah.
And if you ignore that and pretend we're not racist, London's a cosmopolitan piece of it, you've lost an entire, you are ill-informed.
Yeah.
You are uneducated about what the royal monarchy means to people of color and what it means to people in the Commonwealth. You have not understood the history.
And I think you also haven't understood in that case how people of color gravitated to Meghan.
Very well said.
Because
Very well
she
said.
was a representation of them.
Exactly.
So when she was thrown away, they were thrown away.
That's so well said.
And
That's so well said.
It's created, more people are really speaking out about the issues that no one has, not no one, because there are so many amazing, commentators and activists and personalities in the UK who have been very vocal.
Right.
But this has definitely amplified that messaging.
Yeah, and we see that reporter who I really loved seeing, and she spoke about how important the conversation has become because it broke open. I mean, there's a part, and I don't know if it's in the next episode, but it's famously known that one of the royal family members, to the first time they met her, was wearing one of those almost like a enslaved pin. Remember that, of a person of color? And it was this huge scandal, and it was normalized, and because no one had ever talked about it.
Right.
And if you didn't know, I always bring this up. In the Buckingham Palace until the late 1960s, people of color and any foreigner were not allowed to be working in any clerical position or even like around them as like people of help or anything. They didn't want that. So she forced the conversation in the best way possible, in a way that Diana also forced conversation about adultery, I think.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, if we talk about Diana, Princess Lady Di.
Lady Di. English Rose.
Yes. When we talk about her, she cracked the ice.
Exactly.
And Harry broke it wide
Sledgehammer.
open. He started with Princess Diana, or he finished what Princess Diana started.
Yeah.
And I thought, when you look at that footage of the press packs where they're following them on their holidays,
That was
and
insane.
Diana gets up from the table and goes over to the press and says, "I need you to respect my children's privacy." When Harry said that at the beginning, or like after that clip was shown, I was like, he basically said, my mama had a playbook.
Totally.
And what she didn't get a chance to finish, I'm going to do for her.
Absolutely. And he said, I don't want history to repeat itself. She put her hand on that camera and spoke. And what she said was, as a parent, can you put your camera away? And I was like, oh my God, that's so well said. And he goes, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And then what did he say? Can I just get a quick shot of you guys? No, as a parent, leave me alone. And man, I didn't know that when they went skiing, 18,000 photographers are watching them go down all the hills. I mean, there was never any privacy.
Right.
Yeah, that was insane.
And the forced smiles on the children's faces.
Didn't that look weird?
Oh, it made me so uncomfortable.
When they were just standing there like, hello.
Yeah.
I have to smile now.
So uncomfortable.
I know.
Like a dog and pony show. But Harry said at the beginning of this episode, if you have children, it should be your consent as to what you share.
Yes, I have consent exactly written down. I have consent. That was an important word. That was an important word for him, I think, because that is what took his mother. And I think he wanted... What's also interesting, just very quickly and nerdily, is his great uncle, Edward VIII, this is going to sound really silly, but abdicated the throne to marry an American divorcee. And so it's interesting to see him take the same position and get away from it all. So I thought that was interesting. But consent, he felt he could not get in the firm. He could not get it. And there was no help.
Yeah.
Why there's no handlers? I'm picturing all these people.
I know.
Where was everybody?
I know. It's such a strange thing looking, because clearly, we're looking at it from the outside in.
Yeah.
But being let in a first person account of this has been my life.
Yeah.
First of all, protect Harry and Meghan at all costs.
Yeah,
like,
for real.
Protect them at all costs. I think that they are more important to not only the story of the British media and their collusion with the monarchy. They will be the heroes of this story.
Yeah.
There's just, to me, I look at the way that the British media right now is really attacking them. And it's so crazy to me because they are feeding into this narrative.
They're
They
proving
are the
point.
villain,
They're
right?
proving the point. You're absolutely right. The more they pull, because by the way, the UK, if this came out Thursday, they panned it. Critics are so mad in the UK. People are angry about this. They're saying you're going up against the monarchy. What you are absolutely doing, they're underlining the point that Harry is like, this is why I have to get away.
Right.
I'll never be free.
Right.
I'll never, ever be free. And I also didn't know, Erica, that the firm has a relationship so strongly with the British
Yes.
media. It's a whole... They'll shake hands and be like, meet us here and I'll pay for this and we'll do it's a different way than the American media is. And he wanted out from that. Yeah.
That nugget was so important to really break down the relationship between the monarchy and the British media.
They use each other.
Yeah.
Don't they? Yeah.
And the idea, and I know we talked about this on Daily Blast Live, that, Harry and Meghan received reportedly about $100 million for this deal. But when you are getting paid as a paparazzi tens of thousands of dollars for unauthorized photos, then how much money has the monarchy made the British media and vice versa? This is a numbers game, and that's the reason why people are so heated about it, because nobody likes their money to be played with. But you're going to play with people's lives in order to make this come to fruition. Like, where they do that at?
I know. Yeah. And it was almost like a shady business deal that's just open. It's just in the front. It's just known. It's like kind of like a bit mafioso. And what's so interesting to me is the grit and strength it takes to walk away. Not only did Diana do it, her son did it, but also I always think Al, one of our co-hosts, said this, and I thought it was so great on Daily Blast Live. The UK is mostly angry too because she got in the tower and said, I don't need you. And what that says to them is she walked away from what they gave her as if she you know what I mean? I thought, now that's she. And you don't find a lot of women who could have done that, or men who could have just left.
Yeah.
That's a strong human being.
Well, they both are, because
very true.
They chose happiness. They chose authenticity and truth.
Right.
Because that's the thing. It's like you can manipulate an image, you can manipulate a story, you can do all of those things. But when it's truly your life, that isn't something that you can fake the funk in every day.
No.
And it shows, I feel like when people are living in their greatest testimony and most authentic truth, it oozes from every part of their body. It's magnetic. You see it. And they have that.
For sure. For sure. And I also thought it was interesting, too, that it's just interesting. You don't see a lot of romance and touching. And she spoke about that, obviously, the hugging of the royal family and all that. But they touched each other well, I thought. They always were touching. In every photograph, the black and whites, their noses, their heads, they were instinctively touchy. And I thought, isn't that lovely? Because that's another Diana.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She touched the kids.
For sure.
She hugged the boys. She kissed the boys. Yeah. And I don't think Charles I don't think he touched him once. I mean, it's just very different.
Yeah.
So it was nice to see that.
When we talked about Diana, and I mean, there was a part because about a week or so ago, we had the conversation about this documentary dropping, and I went on a rant about
a good rant,
the collusion. Thank you, of the British media and the monarchy. And a lot of people responded because, I'm sorry, y'all, it was tight, okay? It was tight. I know what I said, and I'd say it again, okay? If you haven't seen the rant, a couple people have posted it.
It's very
in
viral,
social
people.
Media.
Very viral.
And one thing that people who have given me backlash, which isn't a lot, is saying that she doesn't know her history because Diana died in Paris. I didn't say that the UK media actually physically murdered her, but this is exactly what I was referring to. Earl Charles Spencer, Diana's brother, said every press outlet that has published and pursued images of Diana has blood on their hands. That blood leaves a stain, and that blood started with the UK media. It started because they needed a scapegoat, and Diana became the scapegoat. They talked about the secrets within the monarchy, the secrets within the firm are big business in the UK media. And what happened when Meghan came in? They seemingly accepted her so that she could be the next
Diana.
scapegoat.
Wow. The next Diana.
She was a safe person to be like, yeah, let's feed the press some stories and make her the villain in the equation.
It's like that scene in Jurassic Park when they hold the lamb out for the big T-Rex. They're just trying to make her the next lamb. And let me say something. When Prince Harry said, or Harry, not Prince Harry, says, I had to do everything I could to protect my family. I think he's referring exactly to that because he foresaw them doing the same thing.
Yeah.
He saw it all happening all over again. And if you're going to save your family, you got to get out of there, which is not an easy choice to have made.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree. I think he saw it was a life or death choice. This wasn't just a low stakes decision. This was it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're listening to Come Back with Erica Cobb. I am here with my girl, Tory Shulman. We are talking about episode 1 of Harry and Meghan on Netflix. I thought this was interesting because there are, historians and people who are really making sure that the viewing public are understanding the dynamics of the royal family. And one of them said, and I agreed, I thought it was so great, the royal family lives in a gilded cage, lacking basic freedoms. I don't admire, or I don't,
Envy
them at all.
I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah.
And today I got in a little spat with someone at work, actually, who said, how can you stand up for Harry? He's so pampered. He had everything given to him. It is a traumatic living style. It is, no one would want it. And I'm a media camera hog. I'm very self-absorbed. I'm very vain. And even I couldn't take that amount of attention. So you have a picture of a fairy tale again, and Americans do, of what the royalty is like. But remember, this goes back to 1066, William the Conqueror, and their duty is to serve. It's not fun. There's no joy. There's not a lot of joy in the, they don't laugh a lot. They don't. It's not a happy group of people in a way. I mean, and I say that with they kept that stiff upper lip. So I feel like he always said this too in the beginning. He said, I'm the cheeky one. I'm like my mother. And if anyone was going to get out of that gilded cage, it was going to be he. It was going to be him. Yeah. That was interesting.
Yeah. I also the list. When he talked about, or Meghan brought up the list, that Harry had a list of exactly what he was looking for in a partner. And then they said, what was on the list? And he's like, good try. And he's like, this, referring to Meghan.
Perfect.
This is the list.
This is exactly the list. But for a second there, they're like, can you show us the list? And he was like, I'm not showing the list. And I even wrote down, if you watch it carefully, and I kept rewinding it, there is a change in his eyes, and Harry will go icy, and he was like, I'm not showing the list, move on. And it wasn't angry, but it was a no.
Yeah.
And then he goes back to being like, she's the list. But I saw he has the capability, like she does, to say, no, I'm out. And I saw it instantly in that one little thing. He was like, you're not getting it from me.
Yeah.
He knows how to put up a wall.
Yeah.
And I thought, you have to. But I saw it in that moment. I said his eyes went icy just for that one moment. It was so interesting.
Yeah, well, that list has to be so deeply personal. So deeply personal.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that he obviously respects privacy, but he also they're playing this line. It's interesting. Anytime we have the conversation has been had recently about Harry and Meghan, and the documentary was announced, a lot of their adversaries will come out and say, oh, I thought they wanted privacy.
What's about the privacy?
What happened with the privacy?
What was
It's
with the
like,
privacy?
ding dong, listen, like you can be a public private person. We see it all the time. You can have boundaries on when you're going to share and when you're going to hold back. They never said they were going to disappear from the public eye. They said they didn't want to do it on your craptastic terms.
I was gonna say it's actually the first time they get to speak.
Exactly.
The only time. So everyone's like, we've heard so much from them. Have you?
Yeah.
Have you? Where have you really heard from both of them?
Right.
Except hello. Like, you've heard a caricature of what they're supposed to be. So you actually haven't heard very much at all.
Yeah.
Because she's been good. She said, I kept it. I did everything I was supposed to do. So to hear it from her mouth, as you always say, the narrator of your own story, I don't think that's being not private. I think that's being a truth teller.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And they have a lot of truth to tell because everybody else made sure that they were muzzled.
Right.
Until now. And I know that there's an argument that, oh, they did Oprah. Like, okay, so you think, show me somebody who isn't 1 hour old who could tell their story in an hour.
I know.
Like, honestly.
Right.
Like,
Especially their story.
Exactly. So in an hour or 90 minutes or whatever, they were supposed to tell everything. Like, that is the most dingbat thing I think I have ever heard. Like, what are you talking about?
I know.
Like, you cannot be serious. And honestly, if that's the theory that you're subscribing
That's
to,
the hill you're dying on.
I think that therapy is there for a reason because you need to unlock. Like, you need to unlock and look at the world as a whole, the world that the rest of us are really living in. Like, that is such a short-sighted idea.
And is it biased?
It's
is
very
there
biased.
an unconscious bias there? A lot of people I've talked to, Erica, have said, we've heard so much. You really haven't, but you think you have because everyone
Right.
else is talking.
Exactly.
It's very odd how much we think she's over talking it, using it, exposure, when she's been muzzled, as you said.
Exactly.
I thought that was very interesting.
And how hard for someone, you see, first we talked about, obviously, she's a very educated woman. She did a lot of public speaking. She made choices in her life that were fighting for herself, which a lot of people do not have the courage to do.
You're right.
When you make choices like, this is not the life I want to live, this is not the partner, it does something to you. It gives you an added layer of armor and strength because you know enough about what you don't know to know what you do and who you truly are. When people haven't gone through that, they don't understand it. So I am not, I'm not angry that people feel like, oh, she shouldn't have this ability to tell her story.
Right.
It's because you yourself have been muzzled, and she is a reflection of everything that you have not been able to do. And I know that hurts. I know it hurts because I've been on the other side of that. I've been on the side where I could not live in my truth. And therefore, if somebody else is doing it, it's triggering.
It hurts you. It's projection.
Triggering.
Wow. It is weird. It is. I do have to say, I think sometimes to myself, would I have the chutzpah we say as Jews to get up and walk to make my life better? I don't know if I would. And it takes an enormous amount of courage. And you're probably right. People are annoyed that she didn't do what they're stuck in doing day after day after day after day. Wow.
I mean, if you really want to get like deeper on this idea, because I think that, we see people in media, we see public facing people all the time. And there's a reason why some of us gravitate to some people and some of us gravitate to others. Sometimes you gravitate towards someone because they're a reflection of you. Sometimes you gravitate towards someone because they're a reflection of everything that you want to be.
You want your vision board.
Yeah.
That's like me to you.
For real. Tory and I are very similar, just in very different, and we're very similar in very different ways.
Very.
But I think if you think about it in a family dynamic, so you have a nuclear family, you have your mother and your father, and your mother's very subservient to your father. And then you are raised in a way that says, okay, my mother's very subservient to my father. In order for me as a daughter to have a relationship or, move forward, I must behave the same. If that is normalized to you, then you start to model that behavior as well. And then you have a little sister, and your little sister's like, nah, I see the way that mom and dad are.
I'm not going to be like that.
And I don't want to be anything like that. I am going to rebuke the system, and I am going to do this another way. Then there's tension between those two because you're either with tradition of the family, or you're saying, no, there's another way for me to live, which a lot of people interpret as the way that we did it isn't okay. You're rejecting us.
Right.
So I think a lot of people are very familiar with the Harry and Meghan story because they lived the Harry and Meghan story in some way.
Or wish they had been able to do so, right? It's a fairy tale it had a fairy tale ending in such a non-fairy tale way.
Yeah.
It's not the girl in the tower with the prince that saves her. It's
Yeah.
they get the hell out of Dodge.
Exactly.
And it's not what you think. It's I'm getting out. I'm getting free.
Yeah.
Which was like her favorite song, I thought was interesting. Or one of her.
Yeah, Nina Simone.
Nina Simone.
Yeah, incredible. Okay, so this has been episode 1 of Harry and Meghan on Netflix. Episode 2, we hear from Mama Doria.
Now I've seen all 3 because I couldn't stop. It's good.
Yeah, okay.
It's
all right.
so good.
I haven't watched it yet. I will watch it. We're going to come back in a few days, so check for the next episode, for episode 2. We'll recap each episode one by one, so you can, if you're kind of, watching episode 1 and you're waiting a week, then we're not going to give you any spoilers.
Correct.
So I am so excited. Tory Shulman, thank you
Erica Cobb.
so much.
What an honor.
For joining and talking. We're going to talk about episode 2 in the next show, but tell my comeback community where they can find and follow you.
You're so sweet. It's just at I am Tory Shulman because I thought that's what you're supposed to put on Instagram instead of your name. So just follow me. I need the followers. I'm very vain. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Follow Tori. She is hilarious, quirky.
That's
we
the word.
love the quirk.
That's the
we love
word.
the quirk. All right, thank y'all for listening, and of course you can always follow me at Erica Cobb, and also get the full podcast all the time on comeback.tv/podcast. Until next week.
Cheerio.
Give me a review. Give me a little, tell us what you think. Tell us what we think.
Make it nice.